Dina ready with the 0-2. Buckled him! Oh, brother, what a pitch!
Hitting a baseball has always been called the hardest thing in sports, but in the last 15 years, it's only gotten dramatically harder. Strikeouts are at an all-time high, and batting averages are near historic lows. And the pitchers entering baseball right now, they're operating at a level this sport has never seen. What started as a rare exception has quietly become the new normal, and it may only be the beginning. For decades, baseball balanced itself. Hitters adjusted, pitchers adapted, the game evolved, but slowly. But then something changed. In 2007, the average MLB fastball velocity was 91.9 miles per hour. Today, it's around 94. That doesn't sound like much, but at 60 feet and 6 inches, that's the difference between having time to think and just trying to survive. And here's what makes it even more alarming. Over a 16-year stretch, there wasn't a single season where average velocity went down. Not one. Every single year, it went up. The result? More swings, more misses, and more strikeouts. Not because hitters got worse, but because pitching got better. In 2010, one pitcher made baseball feel different. Aroldis Chapman burst onto the scene and threw a pitch no one had ever seen before. 105.8 miles per hour. At the time, it felt impossible. Chapman wasn't just overpowering hitters, he was breaking the limits of what pitching could be. For years, people called him a freak, a once-in-a-generation arm. But they were wrong, because Chapman didn't just break the radar gun, he broke the mental barrier. He showed the entire sport what was possible, and from that moment on, everything started to change. Once teams saw what was possible, they changed what they were looking for. Velocity became the priority. Pitch labs exploded, biomechanics improved, training methods evolved. Throwing hard wasn't just an advantage anymore, it became the expectation. Bullpens filled with power arms, starters began touching upper 90s consistently, and the soft-tossing pitcher almost disappeared. The floor got raised, and hitters suddenly found themselves facing a version of baseball they weren't built for. Now a new generation is taking it even further. Paul Skeens arrived, throwing triple digits as a rookie and dominating immediately. By age 23, he had already posted a sub 2.0 ERA with over 200 strikeouts in a season. But what makes him truly dangerous isn't just his fastball, it's everything around it. His splinker tunnels off that velocity perfectly, forcing hitters to guess and usually guess wrong. Then, there's Mason Miller, one of the hardest throwers in the game today, and one of the most unhittable. Miller regularly sits in the upper 90s, but what separates him is how often he reaches triple digits. 100, 101, and even 102 miles per hour, not as a peak, but as the expectation. And it's not just velocity. His slider comes in hard enough that hitters can't comfortably sit fastball, but sharp enough that they can't adjust once they recognize it, which puts them in an impossible position. Guess fastball and they're late, guess breaking ball and they're frozen. Jacob Misiorowski adds another layer. At 6'7", his extension makes 100 miles per hour feel even faster, and his slider only makes the fastball harder to track. Then, there's Chase Burns, a power arm with a devastating slider that generates swings and misses at an elite rate. 4 pitchers, 4 different arsenals, but one shared reality. Hitters can't just sit on one pitch anymore, because every pitch is a threat. When velocity increases, reaction time disappears. At 90 miles per hour, a hitter has about 0.44 seconds to react. At 100, that drops to around 0.40. That difference might sound small, but here's the problem. A hitter needs about 0.25 seconds just to recognize the pitch and begin their swing, which means by the time they decide what they're looking at, it's already too late. And it's not just a fastball anymore. Years ago, hitters could adjust between speeds. A fastball might come in at 95, but the slider would drop into the low 80s. Today, that same slider is coming in at over 90 miles per hour, and the changeup is mid to high 80s. Everything is faster, and everything looks the same longer. Hitters have less time than ever to figure it out, and if hitters thought this trend might slow down, the next wave says otherwise. Seth Hernandez is already showing elite velocity at a young age. As a high school pitcher, he's already sitting near 98 miles per hour, with a changeup scouts already grade as elite. He hasn't thrown a professional pitch yet, and he's already projected as a future ace. Velocity isn't just appearing anymore, it's being developed from the ground up. So hitting isn't getting harder by accident, it's getting harder by design. Pitchers are bigger, stronger, more efficient. They train with motion capture, analyze spin rates, and optimize every movement. And the data is clear. Pitchers who throw harder perform better, which means every team is chasing the same thing, and the arms race has no finish line. Baseball has always evolved, but rarely has one side of the game changed this quickly. From Chapman's 106-mile-per-hour fastball to a league full of pitchers touching triple digits, to young prospects already pushing those limits, the trend isn't slowing down, it's accelerating. And baseball doesn't have an easy answer. The last time pitching became this dominant, they lowered the mound. Right now, they're doing nothing, which means the gap between pitchers and hitters is only getting wider. Aroldis Chapman threw 106 miles per hour in 2010, and the world said nobody would ever do it again. Then, everybody did. Now the next generation is already here. So the real question isn't whether hitting is getting harder, it clearly is. The question is, when does it become impossible?